Psalm 145:13.
Uh-huh.
So because a lot of the translations, for example, I have here the NRSV, add a verse into the Bible. This is a verse that doesn't appear, for example, in the King James. So let's do the King James. Nehemia, could you kindly do verse 13 in the King James?
So the King James 145:13
Yeah.
says, "Thy kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and thy dominion endureth throughout all generations."
All right. And so let's, if you could, one more reading is if you could do it now in the NRSV, the New
So
Revised
the
Standard Version.
NRSV begins the same. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. Then it continues in the same verse. The Lord is faithful in all his words and gracious in all his deeds.
Right. This is a new verse in the Bible that's not in the King James. It's not in the Hebrew. So where did this come from? Why is the NRSV and others adding this verse
So
into the
without
Tanakh?
checking, I'm going to assume it comes from the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Tanakh.
It's actually going to be, I don't know if it's Septuagint, but it's definitely in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Okay, so the Septuagint does have it.
Right. Because the idea, Nehemia, is that every single verse in this psalm begins with the letter of the alphabet, but there's no letter nun, which for us would be the N. There's no N verse.
So it's missing a letter. Okay.
It's missing a letter, and because it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls, because it's in the Septuagint, the NRSV editors felt strong enough that this could be added to our Bibles, so that you now have in this verse.
Well, and they would have said restored to our Bibles, but okay.
Well, they would have said restored, yeah. And so that's a decision, or at least presented. You know, it's a tough call what to do, but compared to the King James, it was definitely added, no questions. But compared to the Hebrew of the Masoretic text, it was added, no questions.
Right.
Right.
Well, so this is okay here. So it's Ne'eman Elohim. This is in the. All right, you're going to read it. Okay, I don't want. I'm not. Cut. All right, go ahead.
No, I don't have it in front of me, but
okay. So I have it a module in accordance where it has the Hebrew, and this is very interesting. So it's 11Q5, 11th Kevet Qumran, manuscript number 5. It says Baruch, and then it has Yud He Vav He. In Paleo Hebrew, I love that. Ubaruch Shemo Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is Yud He Vav He, and blessed is his name forever. So here's the Hebrew of the what's called the Masoretic text, which has the Mem and the Samach, and in the between there's no Nun. And then here you have the New Revised Standard Version, and the extra verse I read is here. The Lord is faithful in all his words. Oh, this is very cool. So I can do this thing where I highlight the word in accordance, faithful. And you see nothing shows up in the Masoretic
in our
text.
Bibles, right?
Right, but it shows up here
in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It does
tag
it.
Ne'eman Elohim bidvarav v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. So faithful is God in his deeds and his actions or his words, and he is chasid, he is chesed, he is faithfulness or loving kindness b'chol ma'asav in all his deeds, all his actions. What's interesting to me on another level is that here's the Greek. The Greek has pistos kurios and tois logos atu, which is the same thing, except it has, instead of Elohim, it has kurios, which is a translation of Azar Adonai or Yud He Vav He.
Exactly.
And not Elohim. So here we have the missing verse, you could say restored, from the Masoretic text, meaning missing the Masoretic text, restored in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But then we have a textual variant between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Greek, which is also very interesting.
And then people, to be fair, they say, well, maybe this wasn't even the missing verse because it's actually a piecemeal from different parts of the psalm. So this is why I'm always hesitant to say we've restored the original. I like to say we are restoring the Dead Sea Scrolls version. You know, I like that.
Right. So there's this. So this is a classic problem in textual criticism. The classic problem is the principle of difficilio lectio, which is a fancy way of saying if it sounds too good to be true, maybe it's too good to be true, right? So you have a difficult text. The difficult text is it jumps from mem to nun. That sounds like something's wrong, right. and so maybe it's because a verse is missing. And then the other possibility is whether that verse was missing or not. People 2,000 years ago had the same question. They said, we're missing a verse. Let's make one up to fill in the gap, right? So we don't know. We don't know if they filled in the gap based on taking pieces from other parts of the verse, like you said, or if this is the original, right? It could go both
Right.
ways.
Right. So
Um,
everybody should
yeah.
check in their Bibles, Psalm 145, verse 13,
Hmm.
and see if they have that half verse that's added. The Lord is
Yeah.
faithful in all His words.
Right. And in the Septuagint, they call it verse 13a.
Right.
Or
And
yeah.
so just this whole idea is that if you know the Hebrew, you know the idea of an acrostic, an A B C D E F G verse and psalm, and once you know that, you can actually look for cool things like the missing verse here